between the top of the crane and the top of the spire. I mean, you know, on paper, that's okay. When you're up there at 1,701 feet, waiting for that last piece of the spire to come at you, and then the wind kicks in a little bit.
I'm always, telling my kids about it and let them know, tell their, friends at school or their teachers that their dad set the spire on Tower 1. It's great feeling. Great feeling when you get to say that. Not many people get to say that. That's awesome.
We finished setting the last piece of the spire. You know, it's finally up, all put together, every piece.
You know, you look around at the workers at the very front line, working hard to make sure it's perfect, and you could see the pain on their face to make sure it's perfect. It's all about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and you see it each and every day.
We're wrapping things up now and getting ready to move on.
I came here and it was a hole in the ground, and I'm going to leave here and people are going to be working here. And people may not notice and may not know all we went through, but I know.
I can see this from the neighborhood where I live in Brooklyn, and I live far in Brooklyn now. And I can see it from one block.
You get done with a job, you step back, you look at it, and you're like, wow, man, I was part of that. Makes it all worth it.
This is where a lot of people died, in this location. And this building right here is like a landmark for them. They had to put a building back up. They have to, and they put a great one up. And I'm blessed to be here to do it.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to OIT's All Hands. We'd like to, on the behalf of the OIT Executive Leadership Team, I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to also recognize Kelly Flanagan, our Vice President, as well as CIO, and also Kelly McDonald, our Assistant Vice President for Information Technology, as well as the rest of VITAL members. We welcome you. Today, we are going to talk about this year and where we want to go, as well as see what your part of it will be. I'd like to thank those who have made this possible. There was a lot of people from a lot of departments, and I just want to say thank you. And before we get started today, Bradley Ross is going to offer our prayer.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this day, this first day of spring, as we think about the wonderful things that lay ahead of us and the opportunities that we have to grow and be better than we've been in the past. Our minds are upon those who have done so much for us, who have laid the foundations for what we are. We pray that Thou will bless them and their families. We also think of our friends and families who are in tumultuous places right now, that Thou will bless them and watch over them. Please help us that we may have the Spirit to be with us, to inspire us in this meeting. We ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
So it's not very often that we get to have all of our part-time as well as full-time employees together, and we're glad that we can take this opportunity. To start with, we want to go over what a shared vision is. And Peter Senge has a quote out here. It says, "A shared vision is not an idea. It is a force in people's hearts, a force of impressive power. It may be inspired by an idea, but it goes further. Then it is no longer an abstraction. People begin to see it as if it does exist. Few, if any, forces in human affairs are as powerful as a shared vision. The video that you just saw as you came in is a great example of this impressive power. It is an example of how people came together to turn that vision into a reality. They made a better, stronger world tower that stands as a symbol for our nation today. We ask that you are open today to the idea of collaborating together to deliver finished solutions. Ponder on how you can help build on that vision to truly make it a reality. I'm going to have now Kelly McDonald come up, and he's going to explain a little bit more of why finished solutions is important and what it is. But not in there.
Test.
Scroll it.
Okay. Not there yet. Yeah, start drawing here. Do you get anything you need to toggle here? Getting there. So, a flash. All right. Okay, thank you. There, by the way, is the shared vision quote that we missed earlier. Some of you might think that I might be a little stiff in my presentation today. Well, that's probably because I am. I've got a little problem with my neck here, and I've had to struggle here. So if I'm going to look straight forward, I'm not going to spend much time going like this, either side, simply because I can't very well. My sons come over last night and said, "Dad, you finally now realize you really are part of the stiff neck generation." And I had to admit that I am. We're here to define some future for the Office of IT and for the university. We have been talking about some of the concepts which we'll again discuss today for some time now. Last fall we had another all hands for the full-time employees. We mentioned the concept of finished solutions, and we're going to elaborate a bit more on that concept today. We are trying to prepare the campus for a better experience. And we do a lot of good things. All of you are involved in just a tremendous amount of activity on this campus that brings to pass just a lot of good. But we can do better, and we can help the campus reach even greater heights of completeness in the work that they do. And we believe that by focusing a lot more on the user experience than perhaps we have done in the past, we can help to bring to pass a lot of better things. And so we are going to explore ways to collaborate and to deliver these completely finished solutions which we've been discussing. And the best way to get started on that path is to just start on the definition that we believe finished solutions has for our context. And so to begin that discussion, let me just show this slide, which kind of represents in general what we have traditionally tried to do in the Office of Information Technology. We have tried to produce solutions that delivered some kind of value to the campus. And that value may be very diverse. We are a diverse organization. And so that value may be in the presentation here in the JSB for a faculty member, or it may be in the effectiveness of the campus network in solving someone's problems, or all of 100 other things that we do. And generally we have judged that value based on cost effectiveness. For the most part, that's what's been our general basis for determining how, from our perspective, how valuable the solution was to the university. However, we'd like to add some additional insight to that judgment of the solution by creating a concept of a finished solution, which may be extending beyond what we have once thought. Yes, it's very true that delivering value is oftentimes judged largely by the campus and by us and by our customers by how cost effective we might be, where cost efficiency is largely driven by the type of business model that a particular solution might have. But there are many other things, aspects of finish that we want to try and start defining in the way we do work. Now, as we've discussed this as a leadership team, this concept of a finished solution, we've kind of gravitated to at least two major definitions of the word finish. The one is the traditional one, means we're done, we're completed. But there's another one which seems to have more importance to the user experience, and that's the smoothness, the polish. A finished carpenter, for example, takes a roughed-in kitchen and turns it into a work of art. And in that same vein, we would like to take those solutions which we are delivering to the campus and turn them into finished works of art, if you will, in solving the campus problems. So we have surrounded this concept of a finished solution with more than just cost effectiveness. There are some other qualities, many of which are judged pretty much in the eyes of the beholder, meaning our customer community, as to how well we do at them. We'll call these things qualities. They're perhaps non-functional in nature. They're not necessarily driven strictly by the desire to solve a particular problem, but perhaps may be driven by a number of other kinds of qualities, such as viable, supportable, iconic. Think of your solution that you work with as being iconic for the campus. Perhaps transparent or invisible. It's very important, very necessary, and the campus community, because of its nature, doesn't even know that it's there. Intuitive in its nature, might be meaningful, predictable, and extensible, perhaps others. But the concept of finished goes now beyond just trying to meet requirements with solution. It's adding to that a layer of finesse. And we're still trying to flesh this out. We need your help. That's the point of a shared vision, quite frankly. In my opinion, this work of creating a shared vision is hard work because each of us have to find our little piece of that vision that we perhaps alone can do and plug it into the whole. It's like a crossword puzzle, which you may see later today. But more challenging than a crossword puzzle, where all of the little tabs are kind of constant, we are in a kind of a crossword puzzle where the tabs might be changing in size and in nature and in location on our solution. So it makes a difficult process of creating a shared vision and especially wrapping it around these concept of finished solution. So in the spirit of trying to go to the next step, we have created a matrix that starts to document these qualities. I see each column in this matrix, in this spreadsheet, if you will, is a given quality that was listed, shown in the previous slide. And then the little cells under that, in that column, represents attributes by which we might take a look at that quality and, through the eyes of that attribute, judge its goodness, its finesse, its aspect of finish. So I'm going to try and turn around here with my neck, and you see some of them like is that working? Okay. You see some of them like in the concept of iconic. You see something like it's a long-lasting experience. It goes beyond just the interaction with the particular solution. Some customer may be darn proud of it, as we typically are. It might be polished, holistic. However, if it's invisible, there may be lack of negatives. The thing is so reliable that it's just there. And you'll see these attributes. Those are things we can ask ourselves and ask our customers as to whether or not we can judge, is this finished or not. Now, some will be a absolute. There are some things that in the the column of viable that we may decide until that's done, it doesn't release. You know, we have this concept that the product will not be released before its time. There will be some in that column. Kelly Flanagan has set some for us that fit in that category. And others are going to be kind of a judgment call of our customers. I encourage all of you to begin this process of reflection on what your place in the shared vision is. And today we're going to start having some presentations from others. Michelle will tell us more about those. But we want to start the dialogue. Dialogue is expanding all of our concepts and thoughts around a particular topic. It's not just discussion, it's dialogue. Dialogue of shared vision. So, Michelle.
Thank you, Kelly. So with so many aspects involved in the finished solution, you can see that we need all of you to be part of the puzzle. So you might not be able to see this. It's basically a puzzle that's been created from the different aspects that we've used to define finished today. And by Friday, you'll receive a piece of this puzzle, each of you, to remind you that we need all of you to join in to be able to make this a reality. And we will rely on you to collaborate with each other to improve not only our products and services, but also to strive for those completely finished solutions. The remainder of the meeting, we'll hear from 5 of our business units, and they will describe how they are moving towards their visions, as well as how they're trying to implement this idea of finished solutions. The last part of our meeting, we will have questions and answers with Kelly Flanagan, and he will take time to answer the questions that have come in, and then we also have some open mics that if you have additional questions that he has not answered, you're welcome to come up and ask him that. At the conclusion of Kelly's discussion, then we will have Louise Hatch offer our closing prayer, and we do have some treats as you exit the auditorium. They're actually outside the doors, so you'll have to go outside to get them. But we again thank you, and we will continue with Edge Services and Daniel.
Okay. Is this thing on? Can you guys hear me? Is that working all right? Okay. We were asked to share something with you guys that we felt strongly about, that we were proud of, something that we'd accomplished, and we were given a really small amount of time to share that, which I discovered yesterday was really hard. So I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of our development life cycle over the past few years. And to kind of start out the discussion, we'll talk a little bit about what we were given several years ago, and that was the challenge to start to move towards a service-oriented architecture. And if you look up here on the left, on paper it looks extremely simple. You've got a UI up top, you've got some web services on the back end with all the business logic and everything, might have a registry in the middle, and it looks like something that is really simple, but no matter what we did, it seemed like in Edge we were always ending up with something that looked more like something on the right here. And if you look at those vertical lines, those represent communication paths. And many of the times our UI would go through the registry and talk to web service. Sometimes it would bypass the registry and hit web services directly. And sometimes it just wouldn't use web services at all, and it would go through the internal channels of whatever framework we were using at the time. And we wanted to kind of understand why that was the case. And with user experience fresh in our minds, we decided to break down the problem of the development experience and where the hangups were. And we found that from the developer's perspective, that diagram did not look like that to them. It looked more like this. And if you look at the big blue box there, that kind of represents the code base that they're working on. And we were asking them to take a chunk out of the middle of their code base and cram fit a less efficient communication methodology and ignore this channel on the right where you see that blank space there on the right. Ignore it completely, even though that's more efficient on the right. And that was psychologically, I think, really painful for our engineers. And when we asked them to do that, they ended up doing something more like this on the left here, where we would have a UI that took advantage of the more efficient communication channels to the business logic. But we'd still try to conform by creating web services and putting them in the registry, thinking and justifying it by saying, well, somebody else, when they write a UI, then they can use the web services. But what problem we ended up with inside Edge was the fact that our APIs often were incomplete because we didn't have anybody really building anything off of them. So it was more or less of a problem. So we wanted to try to come up with a mechanism that allowed us to overcome this and to make it easier for our developers, that the path of least resistance took them where we wanted them to be. And we decided the best way to do that was to actually split the development into two efforts. And in our case, we chose separate frameworks as well for writing the UI side versus the back-end side. And we chose Cake, PHP for the front end, and Java for the back end at the time, and we can go into that more later, why we decided to do that. But we found that that removed that desire, the option altogether of going across that other option. Web services were the only option in this case, and we also had the additional side effect of we were able to better leverage strengths of our engineers and the strengths of the framework to do things a little bit more efficiently and focus on different things. We found that that improved things dramatically for us, but we also found that it introduced a few other problems in our development life cycle, and we found some inefficiencies with our teams waiting for each other, particularly the UI side waiting on the web service side to get things finished, and syncing between the teams caused some inefficiencies. And so we decided the next step was to look at our development life cycle a little bit more closely. And top to bottom kind of talks about a project time, you know, from design to build. Left to right just kind of represents the different efforts that are needing to happen simultaneously. And in order to address this problem, we kind of focused once more from the perspective of user experience, this time specifically the user experience of the UI developer themselves. And we found that in the same way that rapid prototyping of the UI helped us to more quickly arrive at a usable UI and the best UI for our customers, we found that rapid prototyping of the web services allowed us to do similar things on the back-end side. We were able to also, in the same way as we derived the better UIs, we were more quickly able to derive more complete APIs that were more usable by our UI developers. And as such, both teams could simultaneously work on their separate code bases while having that common prototype to work from as a goal for both parties, and that worked out really well. So to finish up my discussion here, I wanted to do really quickly something called a 24/7 lecture. For those of you guys who are familiar with the Ig Nobel Prizes, if you're not, you should look into them. They're hilarious. But they do a 24/7 lecture, which basically is they take an expert in a field of something, typically science, and they ask them to explain it in 24 seconds as completely as possible. And then at the end, they have 7 words to explain it in a way that anyone can understand. So I've got a bar up at the top that's going to count my 24 seconds down. If I go over, feel free to boo me. All right, here we go. This is hard, by the way. I've only accomplished this a few times. Transitioning to a service-oriented architecture can be difficult due to the fact that with SOA, the focus is more on interoperability than on efficiency. Asking the developers to decrease the efficiency of their code was psychologically difficult, and the work needed to be done to alter development practices such that the decisions about architecture were removed from the day-to-day programming tasks. Concepts of user experience design dictated further optimizations with the focus of improving not just the user interfaces, but also the web service APIs through rapid prototyping and the acceptance of throwaway code. And in 7 words, SOA pains can lead to better UX. Thank you.
Okay. Today I'm going to talk to you about ITMS. For those who don't know, it's called ITMS because it stands for International Travel Management System. And I'm going to show you my notes here for a second. Give me 1 sec. Okay, a little history. It was commissioned by Sandra Rogers, the International Vice President, as a streamlined way to have the International Security Office find out where BYU travelers are in case there's a natural disaster, an emergency, some type of terrorist attack, something like 9/11 happening again. BYU book travel is imported each day into the system from another system, third-party system called Sabre, so travelers don't have to input everything, and I'd like to just publicly say that Terry Jensen did a wonderful job of setting up that very complicated import process. The first commit was 2 years and 132 days ago on November 9th, 2011, and Mark Crowther did design and product definition work on it many months prior to that, and the first production release was this year. And I suspect that this particular project is very similar to other large projects at BYU and OIT as well. We had many issues. All of these here you can see are probably common to most of the issues that you'll find in most large development projects. In addition to most of these that are common, the incidental unnecessary complexity of the OIT Java framework, but not Java the language, was a hurdle to overcome, and we had a lot of training needs as well. Each new student developer on the project, and we had quite a few, took a few months to train, and they were only truly productive a few months after that. And later we wished them well as they went off to high-paying developer jobs after we trained them so well. And we chose AngularJS for the calendar, which seemed to be technically a good choice, but only part of the team has been able to learn it well so far. But with that said, we feel the project has been a success, and I'll tell you why. First off, Sandra Rogers, the International Vice President, she gave Mark Crowther a high five at our demo last year. Thought that was nice. She doesn't seem to be the person to do that too often. This year, the International Study Program team during a demo gave us an excited round of applause, an unexpected one, and suggested we have a party. So we like that. And we have our last release for a few months scheduled for Monday, and we don't feel worried about having that take up the time that we need to work on other projects during those next few months. So we're happy that we feel comfortable with it. Oh, there's a couple items here too. So why did our business partner like the result? This is what Mark Crowther, who was the team chief for the majority of the development, said. He said that he was bug averse. He never wanted to be embarrassed in front of the business partner. He had a strong desire to understand the business partner's perspective and make the app work the way they wanted to need it. They wanted it, not the way we wanted to do it. And we developed in iterations, which was successful too. Matt Wilkinson said that the following things contributed to the success: great solution architecting and design work by Mark Crowther, excellent teamwork, team commitment to providing a great user experience and usability, a relatively large group of skilled and dedicated student developers. We've had many, probably on the order of 10 or 11 who've worked on the project so far. And a customer with a clear vision and strong ownership. And we used the Agile methodology, which we've found was beneficial when requirements changed. This quote I like a lot. Programmers don't get burned out by hard work. They get burned out by directives that change with the wind and by not shipping. So if you work and work and work and work to say change it, change it, change it, change it, and you never actually ship anything, that's the frustrating part. And in my mind, the largest contributor to the project's success was continual open communication with the business partner. The good and bad and everything in between. The only thing worse than bad news is late bad news, in my opinion. And Mark Crowther started this and kept it going for over 3 years, keeping in weekly contact with the business partner. That contact was so valuable that when I was asked to be the new chief of our team and Mark was assigned to another team, there was an emergency meeting called to discuss how to keep the business partner from panicking. And he did a great job. So this is ITMS. I'm going to do a demo for you, show you how it works. I'm creating a new travel plan here based on some information from another system. This is the developer conference that Brad Rainier and I are going to go to in a little while here. It's in San Francisco, so I'm just going to say that. And then save it there. By the way, the system is about 500,000 lines of code, and we've had 16 developers work on it so far, and only 5 are left. Whoops. There's Brad. So that's how we created a travel plan. This is the original GUI we made to show the particular segments inside the travel plan, and we could create them this way. But the customer didn't like that. They thought it was too cumbersome, took too long to do, so we built a calendar to allow them to do that more quickly. So let's say this is May, and then these are the different types of segments you can put on the travel plan. They were set up so that blind people could, not blind people, but people with color blindness could see it. And we did confirm that someone who did have color blindness was able to see them. So let's see, I'm traveling from Salt Lake City International Airport to the San Francisco Airport, doing that. We're coming back same way, but backwards. So San Francisco to Salt Lake City. And we have the actual conferences on these days, so I'm going to make that an activity segment. And then there's the time that we actually stay in the hotel. We call those accommodation segments. By the way, you can create these, if the web services are slow that particular day, you can make them all at once. You can do multiple things at the same time, which has been nice. If you go back to the itinerary now, you can see a detailed view of all of the things that we just entered pretty quickly here. And these are the people who are in it. You can create a PDF that you can view. You can email it to yourself, so you can say, hey mom, guess where I'm going. And you can send it to yourself and it'll send an email. And there's also let me show you this. So that's what the person who's working on it interacts, how they interact with it. But there's also world tracking. These are all the people who are traveling from BYU today, who are out and about. And then there's a maps page, which I like a lot, kind of as the world turns motif. And that one takes a long time to load because there's so much data there, and all the travelers in the world from BYU, there's quite a few. But there's also this report an issue button, which I'm showing you the GUI of right now, which we've been really happy about. This way the user can submit a problem to us whenever they see it on any of the pages, and we can say there's a problem with this page. You give them the detail, and you can give them a screenshot or something like that. Let's open that up, and then you can submit it. And then if we go over here, it automatically gives us, in our issue tracking system, all of the URL they were at, which browser they were using, the resolution of their browser, and a bunch of other useful information that we can then use and triage the problem with and communicate with them. So this is the maps page showing all the travelers for BYU today. Just want to show you a little bit of detail. One of the requests they asked for was that we don't show every single pin, but conglomerate and merge the pins when you're at a higher level so that it's easier to understand. In Spain here, for example, in Madrid, there's actually 12 different travel records happening in that particular city, but if you back out quite a bit, it doesn't have to, it conglomerates them all into one pin per country. The red ones are restricted countries, blue are regular countries with no restrictions, and then if you go back to planning here and look at the calendar, it's really easy to change your mind. You say you didn't want to do that anymore, so you can just delete it. So that's ITMS, and we're pretty proud of it. Thanks.
On. Can you hear me now? Good. Okay, I'm Steve Starks. I want to talk about how we're working towards creating finished solutions with our administrative partners, administrative customers. Just to get an idea of who we're working with or who I'm talking about. On the HR side, Chad Feilbach and Forrest Flake. On the finance side, Richard White and Doug Belliston. You probably recognize the mugshots up above on our core team that help deliver solutions to them. Steps towards finished our products. Some of the things that I see that are really important that we've worked on are 1, open communications. 2, a making commitments, and 3, just each side following through. On open communications, our customers are committed to make sure we understand where they're coming from. They invite me and make me a part of their weekly staff meeting, and they're pretty open with me on what they're doing, what they hope for. As well, the core folks have weekly product and project meetings with our customers. By doing that, they build relationships, they have the right people in the room to work on issues, and they have like an agenda or something where you can communicate and make things happen. They take the time on both sides, both our administrative customers in finance and HR, as well as our folks in OIT, to get to know each other and understand where they're coming from and respect each other. Accountable commitments. Our customers, our administrative customers, will actually take the time to write out clear specs and requirements on what they want and give us little screenshots of how they want things to look. We take these things, and within the core team, they put together a bid sheet that comes back and says, okay, we've got what you want, here's the steps that will do it, here's how much it'll cost, here's when we'll get it done, and that becomes the contract with our customers, and CORE stands behind that. As well, both sides clearly assign team members who are going to be a part of this. It's not easy for administrative customers to give up their day jobs and test and attend meetings with us, but they do. They make that commitment to be a part of the project. We also clearly identify who our engineers and who our project managers are. On the team follow-through, CORE stands behind their bid sheets from what I've noticed. Basically, if the cost goes over, CORE will absorb that cost. If it goes under, CORE will absorb that benefit too. They work really hard to stand behind it, and our customers trust it and recognize this is your commitment to us. Our administrative customers actually dedicate the time to working with us to test and to make sure that things work. It's not easy for them to do that. Not all customers will or do, but I've been impressed with our HR and finance customers. As far as the results go, by going through this process with open communications and making commitments and following through, the directors over in HR and payroll and finance, they feel fairly confident in our ability to deliver when they go to their own boss and put forward a business case saying, boss, this is my reputation on the line right here, and I believe that we can come through as a team and make this happen. That's a lot of trust. I found the ASG director, Chad Feilbach, actually did a testimonial on our own IT department webpage talking about our teamwork and partnership. I don't have time right now today because of like the limited time here, but if you get a chance this week, go to it.byu.edu and watch Chad Feilbach's little 2-minute spiel where he talks about the partnership that we have with him and with the administrative folks. Something really cool that happened last week is that the head of student financials, Jay Hansen, did a joint briefing with Frank Staley, our lead developer, on the My Financial Center upgrade project. He did it at the Alliance Conference in Las Vegas. And there he laid out like how cool the product was. Some of the words that he used in describing it are comprehensive, meets requirements, easy, fast, intuitive, simple, seamless, designed with the student and parent in mind. If you recall, those are things that sound a lot like finished products. And that's what he bragged about to the PeopleSoft community in a conference last week. So we've been able to come through very often. Do we have challenges or issues? Yes. Are there things that come up and roadblock both OIT and both our customers at times? Yes. But I have found through open communications and making accountable commitments and then doing our best to follow through that we work it through. And typically we've come through, and our HR and finance customers have been great partners with this. So that's my brief.
Maybe I won't use that. I will use this after all. Okay. In infrastructure, we'd like to highlight 3 different initiatives that we've been working on to create more finished solutions for the campus. The first is called the Campus File System. The second is Tech HD upgrades, and the last is HD Wireless. So first of all, in the campus file system, I think many of you know we store a lot of enterprise data for the campus, and a lot of that data has to be high transactions in and out, and there is an awful lot of it. We have great storage, it works really well, but that type of high-speed enterprise class storage comes at a price, and that price is about $1,200 a terabyte. So we like it, but it's expensive. Fortunately, though, the largest amount of data that we store on campus doesn't need super high transactions all the time. Like the storage that you use on your computers in your offices, a lot of it doesn't get accessed frequently, and so we needed another solution. So with this in mind, the server and storage team inside of infrastructure created the campus file system. First of all, the campus file system will be a future replacement for premium net storage, which is more affectionately known as the S drive, the thing you guys attach to and share files with. It's much lower cost, less than 25% the cost of the high performance storage. It's also easily consumed through Samba or CIFS. You mount it just like you do the S drive. It'll be backed up, and there will be disaster recovery for it, and that's scheduled to be released in fall of 2014. So the campus file system is an important need, and it helps us to give a more finished offering to the campus that we have. The next item I'd like to highlight is Tech HD upgrades. There are over 500 technology-enabled classrooms or tech rooms across campus, and they're being used multiple times a day. The tech rooms have evolved over years, becoming more reliable and have more features in them. And the latest improvement is Tech HD. First of all, they're high definition, as the name suggests, but they also, this is important, have digital inputs for HDMI in addition to the VGA analog inputs. More and more computers that people are buying and using in these rooms do not have the option of VGA outputs on them, so this is an important improvement. Also, you can extend the display across multiple monitors, which we couldn't do before, and they are more reliable. However, we've had a challenge with tech rooms since the very beginning of them. Whenever we went to do an installation in a room or now an upgrade in a room, the class that was in there had to be displaced. And so sometimes classes are displaced for up to 1 week during installation. You can imagine how disruptive that can be, you know, to have a class move for a week and then come back again. The infrastructure presentation team, working with the infrastructure project management team, looked at this and came up with a brilliant solution. Let's see, where's my Vanna? You grab that? This solution they call the Tech HD chassis. Now, one of the advantages of working for infrastructure is you can touch a lot of the things we make, okay? So this is the Tech HD chassis. The idea is to build all the components in one chassis and then install it as one unit inside the tech rooms. This includes the computer, the VCR, the network switches, and other components. And also, if you look at the back here, the system was designed so the components can be quickly serviced or replaced if needed, and sometimes as quickly as between a class break if necessary. We will have a couple of these outside while you're getting your refreshments so you can look at them even closer. Thanks, David. The chassis is built in our shop rather than on site, which means that assembly is faster since the tools and materials are right there ready at hand. Plus, it leads to more consistent results as well. Less variability between rooms. So with this, classroom time, installation time has been reduced from 1 week down to 1 day or less now. And the result of that, in 2013, over 200 Tech HD rooms were upgraded without any classrooms being displaced at all, which is a huge improvement on it. Great, thank you. So, and that's thank you for the team, right? I just get to stand up here on the stage. The team does all the work on this, but being able to upgrade the classrooms without disrupting the classes makes our service more finished than it has been in the past. The last I'd like to focus on is HD wireless. Enterprise wireless networking has been available on campus now for over a decade. In the early days, coverage was limited to specific areas on campus, and we talked in terms of the number of people per device that was being used in a given area. Today, everyone on campus is using more and more wireless network devices. Ubiquitous coverage is expected, and now we talk in terms of the number of devices per person, so a lot higher density. What is HD wireless then? Well, to answer that, I'm going to show you a short video that Todd Barrett put together that helps to answer the question of what HD wireless is. Okay, so as you saw there in the video, HD wireless is coverage for an entire building, not just particular areas in the building, ubiquitous coverage. It's also set up so that every person that's using a given area can have up to 3 devices and still be able to work just fine with the higher density. And with that number of devices, still have 2 megabits per second per person. It's also optimized for mobile devices and the smaller antennas that they have. And for those that are using wired connections in the building, they can, anywhere in the building, they can order a gigabit wired connection. When will it be available? So we've been rolling these things out starting in last year. This is the schedule subject to change. This fluctuates as different needs come up. But we have 4 buildings that we have released so far. The Tanner Building, JKB, JSB, and JFSB have been complete and rolled out, although we are continuing to tune them right now as we learn more and more about the buildings. For example, in this auditorium right here, we have pretty good coverage, but not quite the spec that we want, and so we're modifying the design a little bit. But as the year progresses this summer, we hope to roll out an additional 5 buildings, and then into fall another 3, and then into the 4th quarter and into next year 5 more additional buildings that we have funding for. So providing ubiquitous coverage and the ability to support the increasing number of devices that we have on campus makes the wireless networking solution more finished. So appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of these exciting ideas coming out of the infrastructure team, and thank you very much.
Good morning. In production services, like in most of your areas, we rely heavily on our wonderful, amazing student employees. So what we have for you today is a video that is a tribute to those awesome student employees that we have. It was entirely directed and produced by IT training and AV production student employees, and it highlights a project that we have between operations and the service desk to provide finished support using a cross-functional team. So please, I hope you enjoy the video.
Here at Production Services, we are committed to earning your trust by delivering finished support. One challenge we face is providing consistent support across separate teams. To improve the service, we begin routing after-hour service desk calls to the Ops Center. Instead of hearing a recording, customers are now routed to a live agent in a seamless transition. To accommodate this change for the first month of work, Ops Center employees are trained as regular service desk agents. Our hope is that this cross-functional teamwork would improve the customer's experience.
My name is Josh Groen, and I'm in information systems. One thing I saw when I first went to operations is most of the analysts there did not have any training in the service desk, so whenever they had a call that was kind of related to the service desk, they really didn't know what they were doing. And so then as I saw more people come over that went through this training process, I felt like they were a lot more experienced and proficient at being able to handle those issues. And so I felt like operations was much more able to resolve the issues quickly, and like they knew what they were talking about. So I think it's been great.
My name is Joseph Grumlich. I'm a supervisor here. I've been working for 2.5 years, and I study computer science and animation. The training is to help our new analysts help the service desk with their duties as well, because we do a lot of stuff that the service desk handles. We're here 24/7. We take all the calls the service desk would take, except after hours. So having that little bit of extra training will help our analysts to understand what they do and the basic steps to help people through with that. Our goal is to be able to provide service like quality support 24/7. So anytime that anybody calls into OIT, doesn't matter if it's during a holiday or a weekday or after hours or a weekend, that they'll get the same quality of support and whatever expectations they have will be met. And this is definitely a good step in the right direction.
My name is Whitney Winders. I'm a computer analyst at Network Operations, and I'm an IT major. I was at the service desk for about a month, as the training normally goes, and then I've been here since November. But the training at the service desk really helps you to learn fast and to look for situations that you can apply your knowledge to, look for solutions, use the KB really well to search for answers, and to also use the people around you. I really like the service desk training. I honestly feel like they did a good job with the amount of time that they trained you, and the month was a good opportunity to, I feel like, get all the information that you needed. It was a good way of kind of giving you an idea of what OIT does.
My name's Haley Dennis. I'm a network operations analyst at BMAC, and I am a junior in information technology. I went to the service desk and it was like a month, and we did all the training that they do for like their level 1, and then I came here, and then I learned like, oh, I'm the first one to do this, and so the things there, like they do like all the support for all the services that BYU provides. I learned a lot about things that turned out to be useful because we're at the after hours support. Sometimes we have to like schedule things that only the service desk usually does. Now I also have access to it, and so I can just do the service desk job after hours instead of waiting for Monday or waiting the whole weekend, and this user is suffering like the whole weekend. So it's easier now that we have access to it. We can assist them faster and more efficiently.
Management has reported that the service desk and the ops center are working better together, and that there's an increased sense of unified purpose. As our next step, at the end of the semester, the ops center will start receiving after-hours campus operator calls. We couldn't do any of this without our student employees. They provide a foundation for consistent, professional, and finished support.
Can you hear me? Good. Well, that was an inspiring video. Thank you. And thank you to all the student employees who make that kind of thing possible. I am conscious of the time. I will be brief. I will make a few remarks that I hope address some of the questions that were sent to me. And if there are others after that, please come forward and ask them. But let's be respectful of the time so people can get to where they need to be. Well, probably the biggest thing that I've been asked over the last few weeks is I have a new boss. And while I really don't have a new boss until May 1st, I will have a new boss. President Worthen will be a great asset to the university. President Worthen and I have talked at length about my future plans and his desires. And depending on your perspective, you may take this as good or bad, but I will remain as the CIO for the foreseeable future. Thank you. And some clapped because others did, and some because they were sincere. It's okay. Someone asked if OIT's reputation is, what shape is the OIT reputation in? I would say that the reputation across campus from the people that I hear from is great. And I would say that from two perspectives. One is when I talk to people about what they feel or get delivered from OIT, their comments are typically positive. On a different note, as I was talking with Kelly McDonald the other day, we can't even remember the last angry call we received that says, you know, you've done me in, I can't function, help me out. When I first took this job just over 12 years ago now, I used to get calls regularly from just random faculty that couldn't teach their class, or we ruined their class, or we didn't deliver something. Those that Ray Lyons and company have done a great job in making the devotionals and forums something that I can listen to again rather than wonder what was going to happen. So I appreciate all of those things, and I would say the reputation is in good shape. Now, what are our opportunities? Well, I think there's always a time for improvement, a continuous improvement and refinement, and I mean that organizationally and individually. Always as people we can become better, but organizationally we can become more efficient, we can become smoother, we can become kinder and gentler and easier to work with. We can and should be prepared to facilitate change. We need to be prepared. The day will come. Is President Worthen the individual? Probably. And big things will be asked of us. Big initiatives will be pushed on us from the administration to accomplish great things, and we need to be prepared to stand up and deliver what we know how to deliver in a way that only we can deliver it. We won't be the strategy, we will be the means to make it come to be. President Eyring once told me that prophets, seers, and revelators prophesy, and the rest of us make it come to be. And I think that's a lot to do with what we do. Other people will envision what they want to do in their areas of responsibility, and we'll step up and make that happen. Challenges. We've heard a lot today about finished products. I am a proponent of that. Making things finished is just really a lot of fun. And you think of the devices that you use, you know the ones that are finished. You all know the ones where the engineer that built the hardware also wrote the software. You all know what those are. Now you'll laugh because you think you write great software or you build hardware. Hey, I'm the creator of the world's greatest doorbell, and let me tell you, both the hardware and software are awesome. And my wife dreads the day I install it in my home. We have to finish, in my mind, the SOA effort, the web services effort. We saw earlier today some of the uses of that, but we need to make that more visible to the campus community, more accessible, more easily consumed. Information governance, we need to get that tool in place, the processes in place, so that people on campus can get to the information they want to get to easily without a project or other things that come from that. We need to stay humble and teachable, always. We're doing great things, no doubt about it. And we need to remember that we should do great things and we should get better, and we need to stay humble about what it is we do. Somebody asked about OIT being the right size. I think there are a few areas in OIT, and you may be ones that work in these areas that are at this point in time overworked. We have allocated some new FTE to be hired recently to fill some of the gaps in these areas where we can't reduce the amount of work we're going to do in that area, so we must increase the number of people there, and we will do that. I was asked the question about what types of people ought to we be hiring. Well, I would add this: the types of people we ought to hire and the types of people we ought to retain and the types of people we need to become individually. The most valuable employees are those who seek the Lord's personal direction. The institution needs employees who are competent in their field of choice, that you are interested in developing your personal leadership skills. You have a vision of a better future state. What can you do to make things better for others? They're the people that want to share their talents and skills with other people. We've seen some of that today with the presentations. It was great to see some presenters that we don't normally see. Thank you for stepping up and doing that. I think we have to have fun. If you're not having fun doing what you're doing, you need to find something else to do. I figured out how to make being CIO fun. That's not easy at times. I really miss teaching the students. I wish I could be in the classroom, but you can't do everything, and you need to figure out what you can do and make what you can do fun. I was thinking about this quote from Brigham Young the other day. You are all familiar with this, where he was talking to President Carl G. Mazur. He said, President Young said, "Brother Mazur, I want you to remember that you ought not teach even the alphabet or the multiplication tables without the Spirit of God." I first want to say that we ought not do what we do without the Spirit of God. I also want to say that I think that's two-sided. Brigham Young inspired the president to go get faculty that could teach with the Spirit. But it's also equally important that the students come spiritually prepared to have the Spirit with them that they might learn. There is little time. Is there a question or two that I could answer? And in fact, if you just yell it out, I'll repeat it, and we'll save you the time to go to the microphone. Anything pressing I didn't address? Anybody? I'm not going to see your arm. And I was thinking, as Kelly said, that he can only stare straight ahead, and I was thinking, how awesome would it be if I could actually look straight ahead with both eyes at the same time? That'd be really cool, but life is it. Any questions at all? Sorrel, what's on your mind? Not much? Wow, okay. That's a first. Anybody else? Okay, we'll end, and thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for your service to the university. I'd be amiss if I didn't thank you profoundly for my current and boss and good friend. President Samuelson has made a lot of difference at this institution. We are financially more stable. We are more stable in many ways here because of the great work that he's done. I am grateful to have a board of trustees who are guided by prophets, seers, and revelators. And that board loves all of you, loves this place, loves what we do here, and is very conscious of what we do. I'm grateful they picked a great man, Kevin Worthen, to guide us in the future. I look forward to hearing from him. We'll see if we can't get him here someday instead of me. Thank you for all you do.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for the opportunity that we had to meet here today as employees of the Office of Information Technology. And we're grateful for those who have spoken to us and pray that we will have the desire to learn and grow in each of our individual assignments. We're grateful for all of the employees of this organization who faithfully do their part in furthering the mission of BYU. Father, we ask that thy blessings be upon the leadership of this university as they prepare for the upcoming transition, and we ask thy blessings to be on each of us, that we will do our part, and that we'll have thy Spirit to be with us and guide us in all that we do. And we're thankful for the refreshments that have been provided, and we pray for these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
For those of you that are going to have the shuttle on the way